It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we wanted to talk a little bit about GLP-1s, especially because they are obviously a lot more mainstream of a choice these days when it comes to weight loss. I think that people have learned a lot, whether in beneficial ways or through the hard way of learning that at the end of the day, losing weight with a GLP-1 is the same as losing weight without a GLP-1, that healthy habits have to be in place, protein and muscle maintenance is important, and that you can't just live in a deficit until the end of time or your body will pay the price, right? Your health will pay the price. So we wanted to talk today with GLP-1s about what it looks like to maintain forever when you specifically use a GLP-1 to aid in your weight loss progress. And should you or should you not have to be on one forever? And what does that maintenance look like long term? So I think that, again, a lot of GLP-1 users have learned a lot. And I think that the industry is maybe starting to educate a little bit more, or people are just, again, starting to understand them better. But we wanted to give just a little bit more context around this. And obviously we've done episodes before on just our general thoughts on GLP-1 use and how they work on a very basic level. But we want to talk about how they're just a tool like every other lever that you can pull when it comes to weight loss.
And part of this is like, women deserve to have the education and the autonomy to have bodies that function really well without suppressing or thinking that they need to suppress for the rest of their lives. You guys need metabolic resilience so that you don't get osteoporosis when you get old and so that you can live a long, healthy life. And unfortunately, a message that I am seeing a lot from people who have had successful weight loss on GLP-1s is, oh my gosh, it worked for me. I feel great in my body. So now I'm going to stay on it forever. And again, similar to what Jill just said, that's like any other restrictive diet. If you don't know what your exit plan is after the diet and you don't know how to keep the fat off, you are really going to do yourself a disservice long term, because at some point your metabolic processes start slowing down if you live at that low place forever. So I think it's great that you feel good in your body. It's great that you got that excess body fat down and you are feeling confident. We want that for you. However, we want to teach you, hey, you're actually doing yourself a health disservice if somebody is telling you you need a maintenance dose to keep it off. The reason that we see so many women come off of them and then gain weight back is not because they need them forever. It's because they have not set their metabolisms up to maintain the fat loss, which you absolutely can do without the GLP-1, just like any other diet. Again, I see a lot of women who come to us after losing a lot of weight on Optivia, right? They cut down to like 800 calories. They don't work out. It's so unhealthy. And then they're scared because as soon as they look at food, they gain weight back because they haven't learned how to build their body to become a more efficient calorie burning machine, which you can do. You can support your metabolism while losing weight, regardless of the method. But it's really, really important long-term health-wise that you don't stay in that chronic low diet state. I'm giving lots of examples here, but we also see that a lot with women who have had gastric bypass surgeries in the past. They eat so little for so long that they end up having the same symptoms of someone who has severe eating disorders because they're just malnourished. So their hair starts falling out. They go into menopause early, or they completely lose their periods when they're young. Like all of these wacky symptoms start happening simply because their body is in this overly stressed state where it's not given enough nourishment to just thrive. So that's what we want to talk about is like, there shouldn't be a maintenance dose, right? And also, how can you get if a esthetician or if a nurse practitioner, if a doctor tells you you do need a forever dose, okay, what's the why behind it? Is it because they think you're going to gain weight? I should specify body fat back right away when you go off of it. Or is it because they're telling you that that's the only way to lower or to improve your insulin sensitivity? Because again, we want to cover all of those things. There are natural things you can eat that increase your body's natural production of GLPs. There are things that you can do naturally that improve your insulin sensitivity better than anything else. And a lot of women aren't doing those things. So don't stay on it forever. There's not a maintenance dose that you need to do. Instead, let's use it as a tool to make a deficit way easier because it helps with the hunger cues, right? And then let's get in and get out of that deficit land.
And I think it's also important to note that when you suppress those hunger signals for whatever period of time that you're on GLP, I think some of it is psychological and some of it is physiological, that you are going to feel hungry when you come off, right? You have suppressed this for a period of time, making your deficit easier to comply with, right? Whatever target you have set for yourself. But it's the same thing when someone chronically diets, especially women, for an extended period of time, where someone who truly has restricted calories, a lot of times when there's metabolic downregulation, there is a shift in hunger cues where they'll say, well, I don't eat as much because I'm not hungry, right? And then they're in this place where they can't lose weight, their hunger signals aren't there, they're like, I can't eat breakfast, I'm so full, whatever, right? And when we start slowly adding food back in, their hunger cues to rev back up, right? Because we're kind of waiting.
It's not overnight.
Yeah.
It's not overnight. I just had this conversation with a client where, like, for the last 2 weeks, she's been with us for maybe 4 weeks. For the last 2 weeks, almost every other day, she's like, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't. And then yesterday she was like, dude, this is crazy. I've never had hunger cues like this. And I'm like, yeah, 1 week ago you were telling me it was impossible. And now it's because her activity levels are insane and she just wasn't fueling her body. And now her body's like, whoo, good. We're utilizing the energy. She's not increasing inches at all. So in reference to what Jill's talking about, yeah, your hunger cues should come back. That's actually healthy. You don't need to suppress your hunger cues for the rest of your life.
Right.
Also, there's
a normal feeling to have.
Yeah. Also, there's a huge psychological component to what that build phase ought to look like. And I'm going to still call it a build phase, right? That doesn't mean putting body fat back on. If you can shuttle those excess calories as we keep building back towards muscle mass, not only are you not going to put those inches in body fat back on, but you're going to become a healthier, more resilient, faster metabolism version of yourself. So that can be kind of tricky because if you look at the scale and the scale goes up a few pounds, you freak out. But if you're eating enough protein and you're lifting properly and you're progressively overloading, your inches you should be able to maintain that figure that you were in at that lowest amount.
Right. So it's kind of full circle, right? Where we're adding those calories back in and driving those hunger cues up. Now you have more energy coming in, which means you literally have more energy in your day to execute activities. And then when you are doing more, to Jess's point, lifting, walking, you're likely literally fidgeting more, building more muscle, increasing the energetic demands. Now we're driving hunger. We're giving your body a reason to be hungry, right? Because we're doing something and we're asking it for, hey, we need fuel to do these things that we want to do, right? In terms of building muscle, changing your body composition, fixing your hormones, just sleeping better, right? Basic, all of those foundational things. So hunger is normal to feel. And honestly, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important to understand that when it comes to like maintaining long term, one of the things that, like, a general rule of thumb is like eating to 80% full, right? Learning what it feels like to comfortably fill yourself, not overstuff
yourself. Satisfied.
To be satisfied, to actually give your body the nutrients that it needs, and knowing that hunger exists for a reason, right? We should not have fully diminished hunger cues around the clock. You may, if you're in a build phase, there are clients that certainly when we push that threshold for the sake of metabolism, muscle building, whatever, that their hunger cues might be lower, but it doesn't mean that they're non-existent. So I think just knowing hunger is normal, and you have to, again, psychologically and physiologically learn how to live with it. Psychologically meaning be okay with it and be comfortable being hungry. Physiologically knowing that hunger is normal, but that if you're giving your body enough calories, enough nutrients, that it shouldn't consume you, right? So there is a balance there for sure.
And we did a series where we did an episode on like how to do a cut well and healthy, how to build well and how to do it in a healthy way. If you are somebody who's like, oh, I know I've been on these for so long, I actually do feel good in my body. Why am I still wasting my money paying for these things? Go back and listen to our episode about how to do a proper build, because those rules apply regardless of how you lost the weight to begin with. And if it makes you feel more comfortable to wean off of the GLP assists, wean off of them. But in any case, those rules still apply. Another thing I've seen quite a bit of, Jill, I don't know if you have, with clients who have come in on GLP agonists, they're hiring us because they're on the max doses possible and they're not seeing results. And then they're like, okay, I need to lose weight yesterday because I'm on all these GLPs, I'm not eating and I'm not seeing any weight loss. Meanwhile, they insist on staying on them. My question to you guys, if you're any of these people, what is your goal? What's the outcome that you're hoping to get? If your body is so like our body adapts to the inputs that we give it, to the stimuluses that we give it. If your body is so adapted that it's not working, I'm putting in air quotes, right? It's probably having some health consequences on your body. But if you're not losing weight and you're at the highest dose, why are you wasting your money on this thing? Again, if you've gotten to a place where you're like, you know what, I do feel pretty physically good. I think I'm ready for a build phase, but I want to hold on to this. Like it's a crutch. Like I can't go back to having hunger cues. You're fighting an uphill battle. Like you're holding on to this thing that's actually no longer serving you as the tool that it is meant to serve in this circumstance.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like, those women that come to us that we work with, they are holding on to it for dear life, right? And they don't, they even vocally tell us like, I don't want to be on this forever, but I don't know what to do, right? And I think in their head, they only know the version of themselves that overconsumes or restricts it fully, and there's no in between. And now they have this tool that they use to restrict for so long that in their head they think the only other alternative is eating everything in sight when they come off, right? Especially because, and I think we've hit this home already in this episode, but they feel the slightest bit of hunger if they skip a couple extra days between doses, or they try to wean themselves off of it and they're like, oh, I'm hungry, so I must not be ready, right?
Like hunger is not the enemy. Even if you're on it, like we can go into this, but like our goal would be to find the minimum effective dose so that you are, maybe you still have all your hunger cues and you just notice your food
Manage your
signals a little
meals,
bit
right?
earlier. Like maybe that's how you're feeling and you start to see, oh my gosh, I'm losing a pound a week. Great. Do not titrate up. If you're experiencing that on very low microdoses, why give yourself more of something that could have negative side effects if you're seeing the optimal results at low doses, right? And what Jill just said applies to every single diet of all time in terms of just doing the same thing over and over. It's like people on keto. Well, no, I lost weight last time I did it. Okay, but then what? Well, then I went balls to the wall and I did the opposite because I was tired of restricting everything. So now I'm going back on it again. And it's like you're doing this cycle to yourself without actually learning the tools and the skills to keep your metabolism fired up so that you can keep the fat off in between, which is what we encourage for all of the women that we work with. But the ones who have come to us post GLP-1 weight loss, it's an extra little mental hurdle for like working with them through that is an extra little mental hurdle, but we're still doing the basics. We are adding protein, adding nourishment, adding whole food. I've had women who are like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I can't be because I came off of the GLP-1, but I have so much more energy all of a sudden. And I'm like, yeah, that is why. And also you're actually eating to fuel your body. We had a client this week who messaged me like, I forgot I had a good sense of humor because I feel like my brain is working again at full capacity like it used to because I'm eating more again, right? And again, this is not GLP-1 exclusive. This is anybody who's been chronically dieting for years and years. Your Jill always gives this analogy of like, if you only get so much money on your paycheck, right? You need to pay your bills first. We need to keep the lights on first before we have fun money to travel and spend on luxurious things. That's what our body does. When we only give it the bare minimum calories, we're keeping the lights on. We don't have fun money to spend on hormones and reproduction and all this other stuff because your body's just
Healthy
physically trying to
digestion.
keep you alive. We can't carry around extra muscle tissue for someday because we're just trying to stay alive right now. So all of those processes downregulate. And then when you start to refeed, oh my gosh, you forget what it felt like before when you had ample energy and a libido and more strength and all the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think too that to your point in terms of like minimum effective dose, I think this is the other part of this that we see a lot is women want to get it covered by insurance naturally. Why would you want to pay for something out of pocket if you don't have to? But then you are at the mercy of these very standard regimented dose increases. And quite frankly, there is no, I feel good here, I don't think I need to go higher in my dose. It doesn't work that way. This is the next dose. It's a preloaded pen. This is what insurance is willing to cover. You said you want weight loss. You got it, right? And then these women are like, oh, well, I didn't respond well to GLP, or I'm one of those people that has these side effects of pancreatitis and hair falling out and all these things. And
I was so nauseous. Well, yeah, you didn't eat for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
of course you felt horrible. You lost all your hair.
Significantly in rapid fire cut your calories and had, of course, negative side effects. And guess what? I promise you would have those negative side effects if you just chose to consume 800 calories a day for several weeks, right? Like, you're still going to feel that way.
And often without enough nutrients too. Again, if somebody cuts down their calories really low, but they're super nutrient dense in what they're eating, again, I would never condone, 800 calories, right, for a grown woman. But if somebody did that and they were eating insanely nutrient dense, you could get by for a little bit. Most of the time, people are using it as a shortcut and they're not doing the healthy stuff with it, where they're not eating enough protein, so they end up losing muscle mass. They're not eating fruits and vegetables. They're waking up and they're having like a Starbucks latte and then having a protein bar in the afternoon and calling it a day, and they're just straight up malnourished. So yeah, working with, and we have a partner that we work with, but working with a compounded pharmacy so that you could microdose it and find the minimum effective dose for you. And then again, what's the why? If a practitioner is telling you, okay, now we're going to titrate you up. Well, I'm losing a pound and a half a week. Why? Right? Like, what's the why? Oh, well, because that's just what we do. Okay, then they don't understand the mechanisms behind what's happening here or an appropriate rate of fat loss. If somebody says, oh, well, this is now our maintenance dose. Okay, evaluate those people. Same as coaches, right? It's like fitness coaches like us. If a coach themselves has to obsessively track everything for the rest of their lives and never maintains over 2,000 calories, that coach, I would have a hard time recommending anybody to a coach like that, because how in the world are you going to be equipped to walk a client through how to maintain in a healthy way, or how to do a proper muscle building phase with plenty of food and a slight surplus? You can't if you've not done it yourself. And I think a lot of the women who are helping other women lose weight, whether they are nurse practitioners, whether they own aesthetic spas, or whether they are, I had somebody in my DMs who I know in real life, and she has seen great results as a side effect of this, and she's exercising and all. But it's almost like an MLM program where she's getting kickbacks every time she refers somebody. And I'm like, this is so unethical, right? So my question is, the person who's recommending it to you as a long-term use thing, are they doing the healthy things to keep it off? Or have you ever seen them maintain without it? Or are they somebody who is and this is not everybody. I want to be very clear. I've seen people use it in a very healthy way and see awesome life change. But I've also seen women who own the fact that, yeah, I'm going to be on it forever because I don't even need to work out and I'm staying skinny. That's not healthy. Like, that in the next 20 years, you're going to have health ramifications, like health consequences, where you're going to have osteoporosis. You're going to have hormonal issues. Unfortunately, a lot of older people end up in the hospital because they're not sturdy, they're not resilient, they don't have good bone density or muscle mass, and then they fall and they break a bone, they end up dying in the hospital. Like, we want muscle mass and we want bone density as much as we can possibly get it while we're younger. And I'm not saying you can't also build it when you're older, but like, if you're using it as if this feels easy and I don't have to now do the healthy habits, there will be health consequences still. Like, the healthy habits still need to be in place if you actually want to be healthy. Even though you could be skinny, okay, you might feel physically a little bit more confident on the outside, but do you only want that, or do you want that and health? Because you can have both.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. Like, people say, the other side of that is they like to be on it because they feel like it reduces inflammation. Now, I don't know really what people are experiencing in that regard, if it's placebo effect of some kind, whatever the case is. There are practitioners who say you can safely stay on a low dose long term. I don't think anyone truly knows what that means for people, right? Or how that affects us long term. I just don't think they've been around long enough for us to say, okay, this is the impact 20 years from now of staying on a GLP, right? And also, I think research would need to be done on the people who do that and endlessly restrict their calories versus somebody who truly keeps in a air quotes microdose, but eats 2,200 calories a day, right? Fuels their body, gets lots of nutrients, lifts weights, adds muscle, all of the boxes we would want to check, right? So like, I don't think we know for sure what the implications are long-term. But as of today, there are certainly practitioners who say you can do that if you feel like it. Again, food noise is a big thing here. It takes the edge off to people, and I guess more power to you right now, but I'm here to confidently say that I don't know really the answer to that long term and what it looks like for people from a health standpoint. I don't think
That's
many
actually
people
a really good, yeah, no, that's a great point because I'm talking so confidently here. I'm speaking specifically to the metabolic effects of staying at really, really low calories for a long time.
Yes.
I'm speaking specifically to that. Specifically, if you think you need it because you are supposed to be at low calories forever, that's what I'm talking about. I know that when it was prescribed before it ever became popular as a weight loss assistant drug, right? It was specifically used for type 2 diabetics and insulin resistance. And it was recommended and it still is recommended to doctors as a forever type drug for people to be on. But again, I've never heard of controlled studies where it's separating the populations who are actually adding exercise and eating protein and someday get their calories a little higher, but stay on it. I've never seen the difference in population. So I think, again, I'm speaking specifically to the metabolic adaptation that takes place if you believe you need to suppress your hunger cues regardless of how they are suppressed. That is problematic health-wise. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I do speculate. I'm curious of your opinion. This is completely an opinion. I'm curious of what you think about peptides versus like a supplement of something in terms of how our body continues natural production. So like you will hear a lot that melatonin, for example, our body naturally produces melatonin, right? If somebody works overnights, right? Take the melatonin to get you back on a normal sleep routine to assist, but then you go off of it. You don't want it to be necessarily forever because there's this factor that our body could downregulate natural production if we're always adding it, right? What's your thoughts on that? Does that end up happening with stuff like, because a peptide is telling our body to naturally create it.
Cycled for that reason, right?
So even it still should be cycled.
Yeah, you
still should be cycled, even if our body's the one naturally producing it. I'm not taking external GLP-1. I'm telling my body to produce it if I want it, right? So that in itself is a concern for me.
Question mark that we don't know, right? Like, does it suppress natural production, which I think it does. I mean, to some
that
degree,
would make
when
sense.
people come off of it because they feel like they have raging hunger. Again, that's why I think some of it's psychological, some of it's physiological, right? Where like it feels strong because you're not used to that. Again, I'm putting this in air quotes, noise of hunger, right? You're so used to it being non-existent, a lot of people at least, versus like, I do think there is a period where you have to be mindful of increased hunger cues as you wean off. Now, I remember a practitioner telling me, I don't wean people off, I just take them off their dose. And I think there are varying opinions there. And again, I think it could be physiological and it could be psychological in that regard too, that if you cold turkey and they wake up one day and they're like, holy shit, I'm hungry, versus if you wean down, does it take the edge off? Who knows, right? Like I think everyone is different. And that's where I don't know if there's really enough research to confidently say one way is again, better or than the other or not. But either way, the point is that these GLPs are meant to help you stay in a deficit and be a tool and be part of the process. Now, take GLP-1 out of the equation. If you go into a calorie deficit and you stick to it and you lose weight, you still shouldn't have to, let's say you're at 1,400 or 1,500 calories and you're like, yup, I'm cruising, I'm sticking to this, I'm super consistent, I lost all the weight I want to lose, I reached my goal. Even then, women often tend to think, well, I had to eat at 1500 calories to get to where I want to be. So this is where I should have to stay. And even remove GLP from the equation, you still shouldn't stay at 1500 calories long term to maintain. And quite frankly, you shouldn't have to, right? You still need to reintroduce more energy and fuel back into your body and come out of that deficit, because that is not enough calories to support you as a human, an active adult, male or female, to thrive in life. It's just not enough energy. And people are like, well, I feel good. Well, you do right now. And everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
Threshold is different. And I promise you, if you stay at 1500 calories, one day you're going to start complaining about, well, I have hypothyroid symptoms, or I have no idea where my Hashimoto's came from, or I'm bloated every day and I don't know why. It is not enough fuel and nutrients for your body to thrive. So GLP or not, it's the same thing. And I think when you understand metabolic demands and how that works internally, then it makes a lot more sense how calories are manipulated. So again, I think it's important to understand that this isn't just a GLP conversation that we're having, but because they are so mainstream right now, it's important to understand this part foundationally too.
Yeah,
Now,
I think that that's great.
Muscle is always the answer, right? That's always one of our number one goals with every client is to build and maintain more muscle for the sake of health, for the sake of physique. Go ahead.
And to find what is your max capacity for those calories. So when Jill's saying, oh, you do not need to live at 1500 calories for the rest of your life, I can just hear it now. All the clients I've had in the past who are like, well, no, but for me it is, because anytime I eat more than that, I start to gain. I wanted to give you a reality check, right? Just because that's your current maintenance, because you've been living there so long, your body has adapted to it. So anytime you add more, you've gained, does not mean you cannot adapt it higher, right? So that's anytime our body plateaus in a diet, right? That's our body just adapting. If I give it the same input over and over again, at first I lose weight, and then eventually my body plateaus, and that becomes my new maintenance, my new norm. Then I have to cut lower, then my body plateaus there, right? Every woman has experienced this at some point when dieting. Guess what? You can adapt your body back up in the same way you adapted it in that unhealthy way. I say that to say, again, I have women over and over and over, well, no, not my body. And I'm like, just trust me for 2 months and let's see what you say. And then we get them higher and higher and higher. And they're like, what? I could have been eating this all this time. And I'm like, yeah, look, your inches are the same. You fit in the same pants. How cool is this? So we're not just looking up a macro calculator and saying, okay, here's your maintenance calories. Me, Jessie, I'm 5 foot nothing, right? If I did that right now, it would say my maintenance calories are like 1500 calories because I'm very short. I don't weigh that much, right? Like, it would tell me my calories are pretty low. Well, guess what? Muscle is one of those things that speeds up. It speeds up your metabolism, but it's an expensive tissue that costs a lot of calories just to live on my body. So to maintain my activity levels and now to maintain this added muscle mass I've spent time putting on, I'm able to eat 21, 22, 2,600 calories a day and maintain just fine. But most women have never actually pushed themselves and trained in the appropriate way to test what that limit is. So again, I say that because I know there's a lot of people listening saying like, well, not me. Guess what? No offense, but you're not special. You probably just haven't done it in the right way in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
so back to muscle. Back to muscle.
Yeah, back to muscle. No, muscle is just always our goal. And that's one of the biggest levers you can pull when it comes to your metabolism. It's one of the most important factors when it comes to driving physique change in an effective manner. When I say in an effective manner, I mean, I know nobody is coming to us saying, I would like to be a smaller version of my current body, right? Everyone wants to be leaner and tighter and look fit and look like they work out and all of those things, right? And that's not just weight loss. That is fat loss built alongside building muscle. Not to mention, the more muscle you have, the more food you can consume at rest, which is like my sole motivator in life. But then from a long-term health perspective, it's funny that sadly, a lot of people learn lessons the hard way when it comes to health, right? Like there's so many people that have health scares that ultimately drive them into a healthier lifestyle, right? And it's like unfortunate that we can't, not everybody, but that we can't all proactively do those things, right? And I know that you could probably hear it in my voice, right? I'm down right now, and even recovering from an illness I'm like, this feels a little bit harder these days, and that is something that does happen with age. And it's just a good reminder of how important it is to move and move well and fuel your body and give it the nutrients that it needs. And it doesn't mean I'll never get sick, but I want that to always feel easy, and I don't want to have to pick up the pieces later of a health scare or something. I want to be as proactive as I possibly can. And it's sad because some women are like, I don't enjoy lifting weights. And I'm like, man, I promise you won't feel that way about weightlifting when you have a health scare down the line, or you fall and easily break a bone and it's hard to recover and take care of your kids, right? Like, that sounds really horrible, and I don't want that to happen to anybody, but I don't go to the gym because I just am a diehard fan of weightlifting. There are a lot of days that I go and I would rather do anything else, right? I want to lay on the couch as much as the next gal, but ultimately I have health goals. I have physique goals, right? There are a lot of reasons. I have a family to support. I have a kid I want to be able to stick around for and move well and be childlike as long as I can. And that comes with strength training and having muscle on your frame and taking care of your body and your bones and all of that too. GLP, the problem and the context around what I'm saying is, to Jess's point, she mentioned this earlier, so many women go on GLP and it does so much heavy lifting for them in terms of the scale is going down, and I don't have to watch my food intake. I don't have to work out. I don't have to stress burning calories. How many steps am I getting? Because you're creating such a large deficit by just mitigating the hunger signals, really, from your brain for the most part. And then people wonder why they have these health scares. And I can tell you, I can look at a blood panel and I can know that you are on GLP and not lifting or eating enough protein or nutrients by your blood panel alone.
Your health
It's
markers.
pretty obvious, and that's
Most
scary to
people-
think about.
Most women that are most people who are losing weight on these GLP agonists are losing weight despite unhealthy habits. And that's what we really want to get away from. It's not because of your improved metabolism and, I need to stay on it for my improved insulin sensitivity. And it's like, who are you lying to? You need to also do the healthy stuff with it, right? And again, we are not against it as a tool during a deficit, but you need to eat adequate protein. You need to have resistance training with progressive overload. And the higher doses you're on, the less energy you're probably going to have to do that. The less food you eat, the less energy you're going to have to do that. The higher doses you're on, the more aversions you're going to have to hit those protein goals, right? So, and also you need a strategic exit plan. So to use it properly, adequate protein, progressive resistance training, fiber, and eat some plants, eat some fruits and vegetables, and a proper exit plan. We say this about any practitioner, not just somebody who's prescribing this, but if they are just trying to get you to keep taking this thing for the rest of your life, what good are they doing you? They're not teaching you actually how to become a healthier version of yourself and how to come off of it at some point. I would say that about the fact that my daughter's doctor recommended antacids for a reflux. Okay, and then what? She takes them for the rest of her life? Absolutely, I'm not doing that. If we understand the mechanisms, that's going to cause longer term effects because her stomach will stop producing as much stomach acid, right? We need to start challenging these systems if we're not given okay, but then what? Or why, right? People who are truly healthy, helping your health, like us and our clients, I do not want my clients to need me forever. I hope that in a year, in 2 years, they graduate. And I've had lots of clients who have graduated to the point that they could rinse and repeat and do what I've done with them on themselves because they understand the why of it and they know how to implement in each case appropriately so that they can maintain forever for the rest of their life. That's the goal, is true health, not symptom mitigation and weight loss at the expense of health.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of, we kind of touched on this, but staying low calorie forever, just not an option. Obviously, GLP makes that significantly easier. And we want to make sure that we avoid that, especially, for everyone, for the sake of health, but especially, we're talking menopausal women when things are changing, ramping up, hormonal shifts that are happening that are part of life and not within your control. Don't add fuel to the fire in terms of muscle loss and your bone health. And all of the other symptoms that you're going to feel. I mean, a large majority of the population of women that we work with are menopausal women who have a long history of chronically dieting and restricting calories, and simply getting their calories back up to maintenance and lifting consistently reduces a large majority of the symptoms that they experience in terms of their hot flashes. And again, the hormone changes are happening, but what we do is we can't change that part, but we can optimize around it. And generally, if we can minimize other stressors on the body, calorie restriction being one of the biggest ones, managing stress, all of those things, then those symptoms tend to drift away, right? Magically. There are women who need HRT support, and that's fine, right? That's a whole other conversation. But underfueling is long term, especially if you aren't even seeing the progress that you're looking for, right? Like sometimes women are like, oh, I've been at 1,600 calories for 10 months. And I'm like, well, how much have you lost, right? 5 pounds, but I haven't lost weight in the last 5 months. Why on God's green earth are you still restricting calories and expecting something different to happen? Do you think you're just going to wake up one day and it's going to fall off? And it's the same with GLP. If you are already a chronic dieter, calorie restrictor, and you've gone on a GLP-1 and you're like, it didn't work for me, I didn't lose weight. There are only two possible scenarios when this happens. One, you are straight up eating through the dose that you're on, putting yourself out of a calorie deficit, or you have such a long chronic dieting history, not necessarily long, calorie restriction that you are already metabolically adapted at a lower calorie intake. And the GLP, at the end of the day, everyone thinks it's just they go on it and they lose weight. It reduces your hunger to allow you to create a calorie deficit. If you're already metabolically downregulated and already under eating, and you are not creating a further calorie deficit, then the GLP is, you might as well just throw money out, go give it to a homeless guy down on the corner. It's the same thing. It does absolutely nothing, right?
And I think a lot of women have that reality and they feel so hopeless because they're like, nothing's working and I've been doing this for so long, but they're that scared of seeing the scale go up 5 pounds that they are going to keep doing the same thing and banging their head against the wall and feel horrible and watch their hair become brittle and fall out and all these crazy things go on. They feel terrible. They don't sleep. Now they're having thyroid issues because they're that scared of 5 pounds on the scale. And again, that's not an overnight fix. Us saying that doesn't take that fear away, right? But going through a proper muscle building phase and actually seeing for yourself that your body feels better and you're like, oh, I can look toned even at 5 pounds heavier. I actually look really good, can be such a weight lifted when the scale doesn't own your life anymore. So our next section, we just kind of wrote notes on like, hey guys, here's natural things you can do without being on these meds. Or if you have already been on these peptides and you're coming off of it, keep this in mind. The best thing you can do to improve your insulin sensitivity is to build muscle. Muscle is a glucose disposing agent, okay? Do resistance training, walk after your meals, I know there's a lot of doctors out there who will just say, oh, just cut carbs. Pair your carbs with proteins and fibers. Eat your carbs with proteins and your glucose does not spike as high. Sleep. If you are highly stressed and you don't get enough sleep, your blood sugar will spike. So those are some things you can do to naturally help with insulin sensitivity. Now, on the other side, things that naturally cause our bodies to trigger more GLP-1 production. Eating protein. Wow. Fun fact, isn't it? Right? Everybody knows this, but if you eat a lot of chicken breasts, you're going to be full on just a couple hundred calories versus I could eat 1,000 calories of something that's not as nutrient dense, right? Guess what? It physically causes your body to create that. Protein, fiber, especially soluble fiber. There's some bitter things. I know like yerba mate, Huberman talks about this a lot, about how yerba mate is a natural GLP-1 agonist. I've heard also like coffee and cocoa, which again, a lot of people drink coffee and then it suppresses their appetite. That's a funny correlation there. Slower eating. Think about that. When we are slow and we mindfully eat, our fullness signals are triggered, right? All of these things are things that you can do now to help yourself if you are coming off of GLP-1s versus thinking you need to rely on them forever. And again, we really want you to know that there's an exit strategy in place. Bare minimum, if you're like, well, I'll use it forever. Okay, then go through strategic cuts and strategic muscle building phases when you're not on it. And then when you want to go into your next cut, go back on it for that specific deficit, but come off of it during the longer muscle building periods in between so that your body isn't just adapted and needing more and more and more and lower and lower and lower calories and stops producing as much on its own. So a responsible provider ought to be asking how much protein you are eating. And most women are like, oh, I'm eating 100 grams, 100, and they don't actually know. So like first and foremost, track your food and eat more protein. Second, they might be asking, are you lifting weights or are you exercising? And I've seen a lot of women who are exercising a lot, but they are not lifting weights. They're just running a lot, which you take a lot of food out and you run a lot. Guess what? Your body's paring down muscle mass. Your metabolism is going to slow way down. So lift weights, eat a lot of protein, and only go into it if you already are at a healthy metabolic place, meaning your cycle is already regular. You are not coming out of dieting for years upon end. You should be, we did an episode like this, maybe the first week of the new year, first or second week of the new year. But when you need to like be prepared before you enter into a diet season. And part of that preparation looks like not dieting for a while first. Your body will respond better, but you'll also be in a healthier place where the lights of the excess functions in your house aren't going to be turning off, right? If your provider has not discussed an exit plan and they're only talking about maintenance doses or forever doses, then I would find a new provider if it was me. So yeah, that's that. This is like recommending lifetime maintenance doses is not like progressive forward thinking medicine using this science for cool medicine. It's just really crappy metabolic care, and it's not health care. It's let's maintain a small body. It's not actually let's fuel and have the healthiest body while using this thing as a tool.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that was helpful in terms of just better understanding GLP use. And I think, as always, understanding metabolism really can solve a lot of problems for people, right? I think just understanding that really shifts the way that you look at dieting and just understanding why you can't be in a calorie deficit forever. If you guys have questions, as always, you know where to find us on social media. But that is all for today's episode, and we'll see you guys next time.